Well, you've heard so much on the news about ChatGPT, that robots are going to take over the world, but there is one area that robots just can't do. They can't have intuition. They can't help you with your problems. Talking to a robot is not like talking to a licensed clinical psychologist. Today, Dr. Shannan Crawford is in studio. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a privilege.
Well, I'm so honored to have you in the studio. You've had a very busy day already.
Yes.
Did something like half a dozen interviews across the country, and you're still percolating. so tell us your journey. Is this something you've always wanted to do?
Actually, yes. I started acting when I was a young child and did traveling acting companies, and then went to LA to be an actress when I was 17, 18, and then had a pivot when I really fell in love with psychology. And so I've laid acting down for a while, and now being in front of the camera to marry psychology with being in front of lots of people to bring greater change and awareness has really brought a lot of significance to my life.
And I love that about you. She's got a thriving company. We're going to pull up her website, and as we scroll down the website, it just shows how much of the different things you're doing, including podcasting, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I love it that you're an evangelist for your company. I run into so many entrepreneurs who are kind of stuck in their business, and they're not doing a great job promoting their business. Talk about why it's important for you to spread the word through the media, through different platforms.
Absolutely. Well, I think more than ever, mental health is a crisis, and so we're needing a society that's looking at proactively how do we change the way we are dealing with mental health. And so as a CEO and a psychologist, it's my passion to help bring awareness in education, in business, and every sphere of leadership and influence.
And what do you, most of the time when you're coaching somebody right now, and I know you also do executive coaching, is there a common theme? Are you seeing a kind of a movie that keeps repeating itself?
Oh my gosh, great question. So much of what we're seeing is the default of still doing life before 2020 as if that didn't happen. And so we're seeing tons of burnout, anxiety, and depression, which is the lack of stewardship of our mental health and emotional health. And then if we're not dealing with our relationships, we're taking for granted those support systems. And so that we're seeing so many times. I have a whole staff of team, and we're all triaging to make sure our clients have the best life.
Yeah, and I think that pandemic of mental health issues is going to continue, because I've always said that we are all kind of walking wounded who never went to see a professional, but you stopped the whole planet, disrupted people's lives, disrupted people's jobs, and then forget about it, go back to normal. And so a lot of this stuff has not been treated. How does somebody know when they need to see somebody like you?
Well, obviously I'm biased, but I think that there's a proactive that we all benefit from investing in our mental health, just like the coaching mindset. But if we're thinking on the mental health therapy side, I would suggest that if you're finding yourself escapism, where your brain is spending over 80% of the day wishing you were somewhere else and not with your family, not with your work, if your energy and fatigue, a lot of us are in adrenal fatigue, and we just keep having more caffeine and stimulants throughout the day, guilty as well. And so if we're having symptoms that our body's trying to communicate and we're not attending to, that spike of anxiety and adrenaline then bottoms out and turns into depression. And there's that feeling of why bother, and hopeless and helpless that are quick to follow. Absolutely.
And she has, as I mentioned, a very popular podcast. We're going to put this up, and you have a beautiful background. That's in your home, I'm assuming? And you just celebrated 100 episodes, which is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, tell me why you launched the show, and how do you choose your topics?
Yeah, it was a happy accident. I was actually reached out, and they were just saying we need more people in mental health speaking on these topics. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to step forward and be a voice to try to help our culture have healthy souls. So started Unlock You with Dr. Shannan Crawford, and it's you like university, because I've been an adjunct professor for many years in marriage and family counseling. So it's just been a joy. We have a team. They do all the actual work, and I just get to show up and do the fun in front of the camera and mental health part.
I love that, and you're very talented. So even your roots in acting, come out in this form. I also want you to talk a little bit about your faith, because it's very important to you. Tell us how your faith influences your life and your practice.
Oh, that's a great question. I think that at 5, I just had this feeling that Jesus was real and that I was called to be a missionary, and I had no idea what that meant. So I figured it meant moving moving to Africa, having long skirts and living in a tiki hut somewhere. And then this passion for acting and influencing and leading really started to awaken, and I had to wrestle through, is that me? Is that vanity? Or is that something that God's calling me to be a missionary in a different way than I anticipated? And so then I was in undergrad when 9/11 happened, and I had this very sobering feeling of, if people are willing to die for their faith, and I'm barely even like carrying a Bible or anything, then I went on a quest of faith to say, you know, how do I know I'm really a Christian because I'm a Christian, or what if I just grew up in a Christian country, Christian family, and those ingredients? And so I really set out to find out for myself. I didn't want a religion, I really wanted a relationship. And so that became really important to me in undergrad, and then I just feel like I have a best friend that goes with me everywhere, just like this sense of being filled and loved. And so it just gives me a bravery and confidence to try stuff as an entrepreneur that I probably wouldn't.
And I love it that you're able to share your faith on the airways. As I mentioned, you did something like half a dozen interviews this morning. You've got another couple scheduled, and you're able to minister through the airways to people who might never go to church.
Right.
Now, one of the pieces that I saw was with CBN, and this was done about a year or so ago. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
When it's a personality disorder, it is the first 6 years of life that the personality is literally structuring around core lies and beliefs that's embedded into the hard drive. And now people try to software upgrade, right? So I renew my mind, I believe something, I quote scripture, I have a new mental health homework. I do that consciously, which is upgrading software, but it's not upgrading hard drive. So I think we need a more nuanced and sophisticated understanding of personality disorders that don't get better just because of homework and classical just counseling.
Join the conversation and welcome to Inside Voice.
Welcome, friends. You know, today you are in for a real treat. My guest is Dr. Shannan Crawford, a licensed clinical psychologist, conference speaker, an adjunct professor, podcast host, and innovator expert in restoring self-cohesion. There is no time like the present for us to explore the issues that have polarized and fragmented us, not only in our individual relationships, but our identities and our personhood. I met Dr. Crawford by divine appointment at a speaking engagement in Dallas, Texas, and we became instant friends. She's not only beautiful on the inside and outside, but a wealth of encouraging information. And I want to welcome you, my friend, to the program today. Thank you so much for being with us.
It is a huge privilege. I'm very, very excited, and I can't wait to jump in and dive deep.
Well, I want to open up and just begin with you explaining to us what restoring self-cohesion is. Tell us about your concept there, and what does that mean?
Sure. So the premise is that we are multifaceted, so more like a diamond than a piece of paper. So as a clinical psychologist, I'll often hear people say, why do I do that? What's wrong with me? Why do I have these thoughts and these feelings and behaviors that annoy me? And why can't I make it stop? So one of the basic premise is Genesis 1:26. The Lord said, let us make man in our image, that we're actually supposed to have parts of self. And we understand there's body, soul, spirit, but even at macro levels as well as micro levels, we have many parts of our soul, many parts of our personality, and our spirit man. And in health, it would be so cohesive like a symphony that all parts of me are going in the same direction, that the wind instruments, percussion instruments, everything's going in the right direction. Just like Jesus bragging on the Father and Father bragging on the Holy Spirit. That's what our inner world's supposed to look like.
And I love it that you're able to share your faith that way. I said off the top of the show, ChatGPT. There's a lot of talk about, just ask ChatGPT. If they can't replace a human, can they?
No. So the intuition of being able to be a forerunner and to see into the future and then help bring that to pass. What the robots are doing is taking the past aggregate and then creating a normal here. The problem is it's causing us to not engage our prefrontal and our working memory.
Yes.
So it's actually dumbing us down because I don't have to train myself how to think and work through hard problems or be bored and stimulate regions of the brain that increase creativity and intelligence. So It's really dangerous.
And if you and your team are working with people either in person or remotely via Zoom, you're also using your intuition and the way they answered that question, or the way they averted their eyes. And there's a thing that humans can do that there's no way you can teach a robot to do that.
Absolutely. And they're trying to have robots be therapists. And so that's a frightening concept, because so much is lost in the human connection and even the eye contact of letting someone see and know you at a person level, not just behind a screen that a artificial relationship is being constructed.
Absolutely. So we only have about a minute left, so look into your camera there on the left and talk to the viewer who might be wrestling with something right now.
So my greatest takeaway for you is your inherent worth and value. In a time of technology and great invent where the world is changing rapidly, the more you can disengage from all of the fast, hurried pace and be present inside of your physical body and blessing your body, blessing your soul, blessing your spirit, that you're in right alignment. You're made to be here. And there is a spirit man inside of you. It's your true self that's made to shine in this generation. It's easy to get discouraged and overwhelmed, but there is something incredible that the world needs. And the more that we listen to the darkness and the heaviness and the doom of the future, the more disengaged that we will pull back, and we will allow fear to step in as a protection. But it's a fog that will limit your ability to truly shine bright in this generation. And I would encourage you to link up with other people, like even our conversation today, that there's so many people out there, whether remote or in your neighborhood, that you want to engage and lean toward healthy relationship, healthy community, and keep shining bright the gift that's in you for the world.
Outstanding. This has been such a fast segment. We're going to have you back. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart with our viewers. And we're going to end with your website, which is drshannancrawford.com. Dr. Shannan Crawford, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
That's it for now. We'll see you next
Bye.
time.